Okay. Hello everyone. 今日嚟到咧日日講女人經嘅第15日啦。So today is the 15 days of my 18 days challenge about every day we talk about women and different perspective. So today I have got Libby Gill with me. Libby is also my teacher. Yeah, I'm going to introduce her in a bit. Hello Libby, how are you doing?
I'm great. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting my invite. Let me introduce you in my language so my friends know who you are in my own language. Yeah, 1 minute, very quickly. 咁咧，我同大家介紹下 Libby 先啦。咁 Libby 佢本身咧係一個電視，即係美國一個電視傳播嘅一個 leader 嚟嘅。之前咁咧，佢都係一個好著名嘅作家啦，得獎嘅。佢出嘅書出咗7本書。咁佢咧係幫好多啲大嘅公司啊，譬如 Coca-Cola 啊，譬如Disney 啊，譬如 PayPal 啊，譬如呢啲好多大嘅公司咧，佢係幫佢哋啲 C-class 嘅leader 咧，或者係啲 newly emerged 嗰啲 leader 咧，幫佢哋做培訓嘅，要幫佢哋點樣提升咧performance 啦，點樣幫佢 motivate 啦，或者將佢啲unreview 嗰啲 talent 咧，將佢激發出嚟嘅。咁咧，所以咧 Libby 咧就好榮幸今日請到佢啦，因為佢係即係同好多啲即係電視台啊，或者係啲大公司嘅人去合作嘅，咁佢都教咗好多人。咁所以咧，今日咧 ，today we're gonna talk about 5 tips for female and the female leader in the workspace。咁咧 ，today 咧，Libby 會同我哋分享5個要點，就係咧女士即係女性嘅領導喺佢哋嘅工作崗位嗰度咧5個 tips。So Libby, shall we start? So today you're going to tell us 5 tips for female leader in the workspace, yes?
Yes, absolutely. My first Cantonese introduction, so thank you for that.
You're welcome, my honor.
Well, first we're going to start with looking ahead. I think it's so important for leaders to paint a picture of the future. Get everybody excited and understanding where you're going together, and make sure it applies to everybody so that they get as excited and inspired by your vision as you are.
It means showing the direction to the team, right?
Exactly.
咁咧第一點咧 ，Libby 就講到咧，作為一個女性嘅領導，我哋第一點有必要有義務咧，係令到我哋嘅下屬，即係我哋嘅團隊咧，係好清楚咁知道我哋嘅 vision， 好清楚咁樣知道我哋係去緊邊個方向嘅，去左啊定或者去右咧，好清楚將個 vision share 到俾我哋嘅 team 嘅。
Wow. Yes. And next, and this is one people might not think of, but it's so important to share information. Information and communication is the lifeblood of any organization. So you have to be willing to share information up and down the pipeline so people feel connected and that they can make timely decisions on their own. Some people hold it back like they're holding on to their own little treasure, but that's not the idea. You want it to flow smoothly.
Wow, so common, yes. 咁咧第二點咧就係 Libby 講到咧，我哋要好清楚咁樣將資訊咧分享到俾我哋團隊下邊嘅所有人，同埋上邊如果上邊仲有人嘅話，都要分享啦。因為咧我哋好多時咧一個女性嘅領導咧，我哋有時會將啲嘢咧即係自己好似喺自己個崗位唔肯同人哋分享啲資訊。其實咧，如果我哋願意分享資訊嘅時候咧，我哋成個 communication flow 咧，即係成個 flow 會 smooth 好多，會大家都知道個大方向，同埋咧係促進咗整個團隊嘅團結性嘅。
Third is now we're always in a state of change. If we've learned anything from the pandemic and prior to that, business is all about change. Sometimes they're huge, like last year's lockdown, maybe this year's, but we're always in flux. We're always flowing and changing. So you need to find both the formal change agents, the people whose job it is to help you identify and then execute the appropriate changes. But there are also lots of informal change agents inside an organization. So if you find the people that get inspired, that can influence others, it's so much easier to implement changes as you move through them when you've got people on board who are both part of that process, and that's their job, whether that's your HR or your senior leadership team, but all the other people that can become the cheerleaders and the champions of change.
Oh, wow. 咁咧Libby 就講到咧第3點咧哇真係好仔細㗎啦，咁咧就講到咧我哋其實咧喺生意嗰個 enterprise 裏面咧 change 係好 normal 嘅一件事，因為做生意係 change 嘛，成日都係 change。咁我哋分2種 change，一種就係有 formal 嘅 change，即係真係譬如職位嘅轉變啊或者成啦。咁另外一個 change 咧就係即係啦 emotionally 嘅一個轉變啦。咁咧我哋可以擅長去揾一啲，譬如有一啲唔係咁 formal 嗰啲 change 啦，揾一啲即係 cheerleader， 令到成個 team 咧個氣氛咧係可以提升嘅。Would you mind evaluate a little bit more? This is so essential. I realized I've got a lot of leader female friends. I realized they do not very adaptive to change.
Well, change is such a tricky process, and most people are not fans of change, right? We don't typically enjoy change. So I do have a checklist I can offer your folks. It's 5 steps to implementing change, and I'm happy to provide that digitally to you, Samantha, so you can share that with anyone you want. But first, it's really identifying the change that needs to happen. It could be something huge like a rollout of a new technology or some kind of structural change in the organization, or it can just be something daily that you're tweaking, you're adapting. But what you want to do is look at who is that change going to be beneficial for? Who is it going to be difficult for? Because not everybody wins when you make a change. So you need to look at that. Who's a win and who's at a loss because of this? Secondly, you've got to really let people know what the overall benefit is. And this goes back to painting a picture of the future. How is this going to help the organization? Even if some people are negatively impacted, how is it going to help us move forward as a team, as a company? And then you've got to begin to communicate and over-communicate about how it's going to happen. How will you roll this out? Who will be in charge? What are the pieces of that change so that people aren't surprised by it? The more you can be open and sharing, the more people will get on board with that. Does it make sense?
It totally makes sense. What if people, I realize a lot of people grudge about like, I don't want to change. I want everything same like before. What if things happen like that? What do you suggest them to flow?
Happens. In the organizations where I speak or coach, I see there's a rule of thumb. It seems to be about 20% of people say, yay, it's about time. I'm so glad we're doing this. And somewhere between 75 and 80% say, well, didn't we just change something last week? Or why are we doing this again? Or what's the use of this? And they just don't want to get on board. But it's an important leadership task. If you've identified something and you know it is critical or just beneficial to the company, you've got to make that change happen. And one thing I tell my leaders all the time is if you say something so often, you think you can't say it again, that's when other people are just beginning to hear it. So you've got to continually reinforce that, even if you feel like, haven't I said this 1,000 times? You may have, but it's necessary.
Right. Let me translate that. But before that, I want to ask you, is that true, the percentage 75 to 25? That's crazy. So it's absolutely normal for this.
I wouldn't say that's hard science, although I could probably find some data to back it up. But in my experience, yes, that's about right. And we see in the Gallup studies that come out yearly, the dissatisfaction level with jobs is about 2/3 of people are not happy on their jobs. So those are often the people that are holding on so tightly that they don't want to change. And it's the leader's job to make that change important, to make people feel good about it, even if it's difficult.
Yes, let me translate that part. It's very huge, very, very good opinion. I think to my girls, my friends, point number 3咧 ，Libby 就係講到話咧，我哋作為一個 leader 咧，其實我哋要好擅長轉變，亦都好擅長要令到我哋個團隊去明白呢個轉變，呢個轉變嘅好處對團隊嘅好處咧，對公司嘅好處咧，咁我可以即係啱啱 Libby 講出嚟個 ratio 咧係25% 嘅人咧，即係 leader 咧行到好前嗰班人咧係好接受轉變，亦都好欣然好擅長於將我哋嘅團隊同個轉變一齊咁樣乘風破浪，但係 90% 嘅人咧，大部分人都唔中意轉變嘅，都係 complain about it 唔中意嘅。咁但係作為一個 leader， 咩叫一個 leader 咧？其實一個 leader 生意本身都係一個轉變。作為一個 leader， 我哋有責任去令到我哋個團隊由嗰75% 去到嗰25%，令佢哋覺得呢個轉變係好自然、好舒服，同埋係好係為對着公司好嘅。咁而呢一個 skillset 咧，我哋需要好多 communication， 需要講好多次嘅。即係可能你已經覺得哇，I already said 100 times， right？ 我講咗100次，但係原來喺嗰個人隻耳仔佢啱啱先第一次聽。所以作為 leader 咧，我哋係要 take 呢個 responsibility， 係要幫助我哋個團隊去明白公司每一個決策係對於邊個好咧，邊個人受益咧，邊個人唔受益咧。咁因為個團隊個 leader 可以知道啦，我哋要有責任令到我哋成個公司上下都可以團結一心嘅，係乘風破浪咁樣去改變。The ratio is very scary, 75 to 25, but very 好 normal 嘅。Libby 就啱啱提到。Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Point number 4, you ready?
Yes.
Point number 4 has to do with what we call emotional intelligence. That part of you that is the human piece of you that you have to bring. And women are particularly good at this. So it's about being open and being transparent, bringing your whole self to the office and not being afraid even to show some vulnerability. People want to know if there's anything we have learned about leadership during the pandemic, people need to see that you are human. They need to feel a sense of empathy, that you understand, even if you don't know fully what's going on in the background. And we've certainly seen into people's kitchens and living rooms now with their Zoom school for the kids and their pets and their family members. But bring that sense of compassion, that sense of vulnerability to the workplace with you.
Yes， 咁咧 Libby 講到咧呢個第4點啦，我哋好多時咧作為一個女性嘅領導啦，我哋有時都會話好可能係好即係點啊，好 firm， 好似個正方形咁樣啦，咁咧。Libby 就講到，如果其實我哋可以將我哋嘅情感啦，我哋 emotional 同埋 vulnerability 咧，唔識點樣vulnerability 或者叫脆弱啦個一面啦，同埋自己嘅情感嘅一面咧，可以將佢好自然咁樣散發同埋流露喺我哋嘅團隊裏面咧。其實我哋將個團隊係增添咗人性化，而有時好多時人性化嘅時候咧，我哋會促進咗好多溝通，促進咗好多溝通橋梁。特別是而家呢個 pandemic 啦，個個人都落喺屋企咧，咁我哋溝通機會已經少咗好多，但係用人性化去可唔可以叫做管理咧？I won't say this kind of vulnerability is kind of management, but it's kind of a way of communication with your team as well, right?
That's right. It's being a whole person. It's being authentic. It's being, and I'm not saying to fake it or manufacture it, but if you're having a tough day or you've made a huge mistake, that can be very instructive to other people. It makes you more approachable. It makes you more real. And it also opens up that pipeline of trust where people feel like, wow, you've made some whopper mistakes. You've made some big, challenges that you had to deal with. And then you weren't always perfect. They feel like they can share issues and problems and raise their hand when they need help. And they see that you're one of them. You're not so high up that ladder that you can't relate to them.
Yes, really, I have to translate that. Really, Libby 啱啱講到呢個咧，其實咧喺我自己嚟講咧，係一個好高層次嘅管理方式嚟嘅。因為咧，我哋 show 一個人性化嘅管理方式咧，佢知道你係一個人嚟嘅，即係佢唔係同一個機械人講嘢，唔係淨係攞業績出嚟啊，傾數字啊，點解你犯錯，點解你唔做好，點解唔乜嘢？其實如果你個人個管理個層次越高咧，其實你越人性化，因為你要其實好多時我哋公司冇 performance 或者咩係做咗好多 mistake， 但係如果個個都唔敢話俾你聽有個 mistake 係有個問題喺度，咁其實就失敗啦。所以咧，我哋將自己咧係 show 到 authentic self 出嚟，即係你根本係一個人。如果我做錯事，我做得唔完美，我自己都會唔開心。我同你一樣係有咁樣，或者 show 一個同理心出嚟嘅時候咧，其實你嘅下屬會更加願意同你講問題，你有更加多機會可以拆解問題。Yeah.
Very good. Yes. Finally, and this, when you can see all these tips really apply to men and women, but this one is really for women leaders, and that is to be bold. Find that sense of confidence. Confidence is a skill like everything else. So practice it. Practice speaking up. Practice sharing your ideas. Practice taking charge when needed. I mean, there are times you need to be a team member and there are times you need to be the leader. But don't shy away from the difficult conversations or the hard tasks. So as you build your confidence, your competence, your skills will really show. And as you build your skills, you become more confident. So it's this cycle that you need to be working on, both competence and confidence. Yes. And that way, they're both building as you develop your leadership skills. And leadership, we're not born leaders, we learn to lead. And that is a skill that you're developing throughout your entire career. So if it's any one takeaway message, it's women leaders, be strong, be confident. You talk about strength all the time, Samantha. It's really finding that inner core of strength, whatever that means to you, and growing, adding to it, building it.
I have a question on that point. Let me translate what you just said first. 咁咧 Libby 講到第5點咧，就係咧我哋作為一個女性嘅 leader 咧，喺職場上面一定要 show 到 confident。點解呢一點對於女性特別重要咧？其實男性咧係好似天生就已經，其實佢講嘢啱同唔啱都對自己充滿自信。但係我哋女性好多時咧，即係我哋話華人社會啦，我哋好多時都過分禮讓，可能會我哋分唔到幾時係可以好輕鬆咁樣同你啲團隊玩，幾時要 take 個 charge， 即係你 you have to listen， you have to obey the legal rules， 係因為對咁樣，即係我哋要攞到個平衡啊，幾時去攞個 confident 去 take charge make decision， 幾時係要好 soft 咁樣同人哋去溝通咧？嗱，呢一個 Libby 講到係對於女性嚟講係最難嘅，有時候。嗱，我而家準備問下 Libby 咧，我哋華人社會咧嚇，我哋女性咧好多時咧一係過分。即係好 feminine， 我同 everybody 好 friendly 嗰陣咧，就即刻咧攞即係做唔到一個好 firm 嘅 decision。我而家準備問 Libby 睇下佢點樣講嚇。Libby, I'm going to show you a question just regarding on that point. I found as a female leadership, even it happened to myself as well. When sometimes we are too soft and too kind of like treat everybody as sister, like friends, like your son and brother and all that. But when the point comes to somebody have to take charge. And then some people will find, okay, she is just so knobbish and she's showing she's the boss here. So how do you take this balance for people adapt, for your, let's say your staff adapt to, you have double face, right? I won't even say it's double face, but it's kind of like
a little bit. Yeah. And this really shows up when you are promoted above your peers. Suddenly you're working in a team and suddenly you're the boss of people that you were side by side with before. And that can be uncomfortable for everybody. You just have to own it. You have to say, I'm the leader of this team, whether it's a team or an entire organization. I'm the leader. I'm in charge. I take responsibility. I share credit for things that go well. And it's up to me to step up and make the goals and the vision of the company clear. And when it requires, I have to have a difficult conversation with someone who is a friend outside the office, you have that conversation. I don't believe that you can't hire your friends, that you can't work with people that you're friendly with. How lonely would the workplace be if you weren't friends with anybody on the job? You spend so much time. And I've had to fire people that were dear friends. It's like you have to do what is right for the business. And they have to understand that. But it's you got to find that core of strength. It's, ooh, I'm the boss now. I need to step up and own this. And that's really what it's about. And the good news is you get more and more comfortable with that as you go. As you build your leadership skills and your expertise. And another important thing is to remember, the higher you go, the less you're going to know about each area of the business. You're going to have people underneath you that are experts in their areas, but it's up to you to have the broad view. to know enough about each of those areas that you can lead, but not to feel that you have to know everything about legal or research or finance. You'll have people that know more than you do. And you have to let go and trust that you've hired great people and let them do their jobs.
Exactly. I really love that. In our culture, we have one cliche forever, 1,000 years. Never work with your family and never hire your friend. And I always found maybe not for today. Well, I think it's a matter of communication always. But yeah, let me translate what you have just said. And it is very important for female leadership, I think. Nowadays, Libby 啱啱提到咧，我哋好多時都分唔到幾時，可能嗰個人同你以前大家咁高咁大，你突然間做咗個 leader 去到好高級，或者你喺佢之上，或者可能係成間公司最大，可能好多人都會睇你唔順眼，或者諸如此類。但係其實我哋作為一個女性嘅 leader，好似我之前講，我哋輸得起，但我哋都要贏得起。贏得起嘅意思係我哋要 own 嗰一個ownership， 即係我哋攞呢，即係自己要，我唔怕蝕底，我亦都唔怕攞個 responsibility， 因為你相信你自己可以做到。咁 from time to time Libby 就講到啦，我哋唔好相信話我哋唔可以同朋友一齊做嘢，或者唔可以同家人一齊做嘢，因為其實你諗下，如果個公司裡面冇 friends 冇 family 冇呢啲，咁你幾 lonely 啊，就咁坐喺度 give orders 喎，咁其實就即係唔 up to date 啦。咁所以咧，Libby啱啱就話，我哋作為女性咧，其實要 honour 自己，唔代表 honour 我哋自己就好似個鐵人咁樣，就唔使 show 我哋 authentic side， 就唔使 show 我哋 emotional side。我哋要學識幾時要 speed up， 講出自己嘅諗法，但係亦都唔好驚退縮，因為我哋要 take responsibility 㗎，唔係話我攞咗個位之後我就唔 take responsibility， 唔係咁樣，我哋一定要自己 honour 自己。Wow, Libby, we share a lot. Oh my God.
I love how you can just go so seamlessly back and forth.
This is so beautifully because, well, people don't really talk about all this, and I think there's too much taboo for female leadership. And nowadays, come on, we can make it through.
You trust if you trust your gut, if your gut has guided you and served you well. But just like you said, well, so this has been a long-standing rule or idea. Challenge it. Who says it has to be that way now? I've hired both of my sons as summer interns for me, and it was a great experience for them and for me. So there goes that rule. Now, there are laws about some of these things, so you have to make sure that you're not hiring family over other qualified candidates and all of that. But hiring someone that is a friend who is well qualified for the job, that's okay. What you don't want to do is hire an entire team of people just like you. We've seen this in the Silicon Valley, where a group of young men, and it's been, described and in a negative way as the bro culture, the guys hiring a group of people that are exactly like them. And you miss the richness and the diversity. That you don't want to do either. But you can't say, I'll never be friends with people at work. What an honor that people trust you and care about your welfare enough, and you care about those, that you form a real bond. When I worked in Hollywood in the studios, I had a team of people who went with me. Many of them went with me from studio to studio to studio, because I worked at 3 major Hollywood studios. And a lot of my team came with me. And that was the greatest compliment of leadership, is that people wanted to continue to stay on my team. And in fact, we're friends still today.
Yes. Well, therefore, I said this is a very high ranking of management, because, well, I think people still believe that kind of management. I sit here, I'm the boss, I give order. Don't ask why, just do it, right?
Those things are over.
Yeah, maybe it's not for tomorrow. So, well, thank you so much, Libby. I know you're kind of in a hurry, and thank you so much for all your sharing. It's brilliant. And for all of you who have not registered for StrongWomen.live Summit, please go ahead and register. Libby is going to share a lot, beside all her successful career as a leader and motivated speaker, and herself is also the awesome writer, and she helped lots of people to write, including myself. please follow Libby and look at her bio, speaker bio in StrongWomen.life. I look forward to see all of you later in this Sunday. Yeah. Libby, any last bit of wrap up?
Just thank you for sharing your wisdom and bringing all these amazing speakers and motivators and teachers together to share with other women. That's what strong women do. They share and support others. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Libby. Thank you so much. That means a lot for me. Thank you.
My pleasure.